Welcome back to Hopeful Horizon, where we share stories that inspire, challenge, and leave a lasting impact. Today's story is one of humility, redemption, and hard-earned lessons. It follows a once arrogant waitress who looked down on her coworkers until a surprising turn of events forces her to see life from the other side. Stripped of her status and faced with the reality of hard labor, she's given a rare chance to change. But will she rise to the occasion? Stay with us as we dive into a tale of second chances, unexpected mentorship, and a transformation that will leave you thinking. If you love stories that highlight powerful life lessons and redemption, be sure to comment below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss another compelling story from Hopeful Horizon, and let us know where you're listening from. The Platinum Grill was the crown jewel of high-end dining in Los Angeles, a place where the elite came to indulge in five-star meals under the soft glow of chandeliers. The air carried the rich aroma of sizzling steaks and truffle-infused pasta, blending with the low hum of jazz music drifting through the speakers. Every corner of the restaurant radiated luxury, from the polished mahogany tables to the uniformed waitstaff gliding between guests, their movements practiced and refined. Karen Miller had worked here for nearly 3 years. She prided herself on her efficiency, but beneath her well-rehearsed smile lurked a sharp-edged judgment. She had an unwritten rule: if a customer looked suspicious, broke, or out of place, they had to pay up front. It wasn't official restaurant policy, but Karen considered it necessary. She saw it as a safeguard against scammers and freeloaders who might try to enjoy a meal without settling the bill. The evening was running smoothly until he walked in. The man strode through the entrance, hood pulled low, sunglasses shielding his eyes, and a gold chain gleaming against the fabric of his oversized hoodie. His jeans sagged slightly, his sneakers spotless, and the air around him carried a quiet confidence. He moved without hesitation, scanning the restaurant before making his way toward an empty table. Karen's gaze narrowed. To her, he was a red flag. She approached him with a practiced smile, her notepad poised. "Welcome to Platinum Grill. Can I start you off with something to drink?" The man leaned back in his chair, adjusting his sunglasses. "Yeah, let me get a glass of that top-shelf red. And go ahead and bring me the steak. Medium rare with the works. Throw in some of that lobster mac too." Karen's pen hovered over the notepad, but instead of jotting down the order, she looked him over once more. Her gut told her he didn't belong. She cleared her throat. "Sir, before we put your order in, I'm going to need you to pay up front." A hush fell over the surrounding tables. A few customers turned to watch. From the corner of the restaurant, one of Karen's co-workers, Lisa, tensed. "Oh no," she muttered under her breath. The man chuckled, low and amused. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a thick wad of cash, and peeled off several crisp bills. He handed them to Karen without hesitation. "Here you go, sweetheart. Keep the change." Karen hesitated for a beat before snatching the money and walking off. The chef, who had been watching from behind the counter, widened his eyes in recognition. He nudged Lisa. "Do you know who that is?" Lisa exhaled sharply. Karen is about to have the worst day of her life. Unaware of the whispers circulating around her, Karen carried on as if nothing was amiss. The man enjoyed his meal, engaging in light conversation with some of the other staff. When he was done, he wiped his mouth, stood, and made his way toward the exit. Before leaving, he turned back to Karen with a smirk. "See you soon." She barely acknowledged him, still convinced she had done the right thing. But the moment he walked out the door, the air in Platinum Grill shifted. Something was coming, and Karen had no idea what she had just set in motion. As soon as the mysterious guest left, the restaurant erupted into murmurs. Servers huddled near the bar, exchanging knowing glances. The kitchen staff whispered among themselves, and even the manager paced behind the counter, rubbing his temples. The tension in the air was thick enough to slice with a steak knife. Karen, oblivious to the growing unease, went about her business. As she passed by the prep station, Lisa grabbed her arm. "Karen, do you have any idea what you just did?" Karen rolled her eyes. "What now?" "Some guy in a hoodie threw some cash at me." "Big deal." Lisa looked exasperated. "Some guy? Karen, that was Snoop Dogg." Karen frowned. "Who?" Lisa's jaw dropped. "Snoop Dogg, as in the legendary rapper. as in the man who literally owns part of this place. Karen blinked, her mind struggling to process Lisa's words. No way, that guy, dressed like that? Lisa let out a sharp laugh. Yeah, because rich people don't always dress in suits. You really screwed up, Karen. Before Karen could respond, the restaurant manager, Mr. Donahue, stormed out of his office, his face red with frustration. Karen, my office. Now. Lisa winced. Oh, you're in for it. Karen squared her shoulders and followed Donahue into his office. As soon as the door shut behind them, he rounded on her. Do you have any idea what you just did? Karen crossed her arms. I was doing my job. We get sketchy customers sometimes. I made sure he paid before we wasted food. Donahue ran a hand through his graying hair. Sketchy? Karen, that was Snoop Dogg, one of the biggest names in the industry. He has a major stake in this restaurant. Karen's stomach twisted slightly, but she refused to back down. I didn't know that. He looked... Donahue cut her off with a sharp glare. He looked like what, Karen? She hesitated, realizing how bad it sounded. I just thought he might not pay. Donahue exhaled sharply. Karen, we don't have a pay-up-front policy. You made that up, and you enforced it on the one person who has the power to fire all of us with the snap of his fingers. Karen shifted on her feet. So what now? Am I fired? Donahue studied her, his face unreadable. That's not up to me anymore, but I'd be prepared for some serious consequences tomorrow. Karen left the office feeling uneasy. The other employees avoided her gaze as she walked past, whispering among themselves. Even Lisa, who usually had something snarky to say, only gave her a pitying look. That night, Karen lay in bed staring at the ceiling, her mind racing. Maybe she had made a mistake. Maybe she had misjudged the situation. But how bad could it really be? It wasn't like Snoop Dogg was going to hold a grudge over something so small. The next morning, she would learn just how wrong she was. The next morning, Karen strutted into Platinum Grill, her usual air of superiority wrapped around her like a shield. But something was off. The restaurant was unusually quiet, except for hushed whispers and occasional bursts of excited murmurs. She frowned as she stepped onto the floor, pausing when she noticed all the waitstaff and kitchen crew gathered in the dining area. At the center of it all stood the restaurant manager, a nervous glint in his eyes. All right, everyone, listen up, he called, clapping his hands. Big news. As of today, Platinum Grill has a new owner. The previous management has sold their stake, and the new boss is taking over immediately. Karen's brows furrowed. A new owner? No one had mentioned a change in ownership. She glanced around, noticing Lisa's smirk. Whatever was coming, Lisa clearly knew before she did. Then she heard the name that turned her blood cold. Please welcome our new owner, Snoop Dogg. Gasps filled the restaurant as heads turned toward the entrance. Karen, suddenly feeling lightheaded, barely managed to swivel around before she saw him. There he was, Snoop Dogg, standing at the doorway in the same hoodie, shades, and chains from the night before. He strolled in with his signature swagger, flashing a grin as he took in the stunned expressions. Karen felt her heart drop into her stomach. Snoop leaned against the counter, letting the moment settle before speaking. Yo, good to see y'all again. Hope the service is still top tier. Lisa couldn't hold it in any longer. She burst into laughter, nudging Karen in the ribs. Oh, it's about to get real interesting. Karen swallowed hard, her face pale as she realized the full gravity of her mistake. She had treated the owner of the restaurant like a common scammer, and now he was her boss. Snoop strolled to the center of the restaurant, addressing the entire staff with an easygoing confidence that still carried authority. All right, listen up. I took over this place for one reason. Platinum Grill should be a spot where everyone gets treated with respect, no matter how they dress, what they look like, or how much they flex in their pockets. His eyes scanned the room before locking onto Karen. She stiffened under his gaze. That means, he continued, no more profiling customers, no more judging folks before they even take a seat. Everyone gets the same treatment. Karen's palms were slick with sweat. She opened her mouth, scrambling for an explanation. I didn't know it was you. I was just following... Snoop raised a hand, silencing her. That's the problem. You judged a book by its cover. That ain't how we do business. The staff was dead silent, all eyes bouncing between Snoop and Karen. Lisa folded her arms, a smug grin playing on her lips. Karen forced a laugh, desperate to salvage the moment. Well, now that I do know, I can promise it won't happen again. Snoop chuckled, shaking his head. Oh, I know it won't, 'cause things are changing around here. He took a step forward, his tone still calm but firm. I believe in second chances, but I also believe in accountability. So, Karen, you're no longer a waitress here. Karen's breath hitched. Wait, what? You're firing me? Snoop let the suspense hang in the air for a moment before flashing that signature smirk. Nah, I ain't firing you, but you are getting reassigned. Karen blinked. Reassigned? To what? Snoop's grin widened. Dishwashing duty. The restaurant erupted. A few staff members covered their mouths, failing to hide their laughter. Lisa outright cackled, slapping the counter. Karen stood frozen, her face twisted in disbelief. You can't be serious, Snoop shrugged. You wanted folks to pay up front before you gave them service? Well, now you're going to learn firsthand what real service looks like, from the back. Karen clenched her fists, her pride shriveling as the reality sank in. She had gone from the top server in the restaurant to scrubbing dishes in the back. It was a humiliating fall, but one she couldn't fight, because she had brought it on herself. Snoop clapped his hands, addressing the rest of the staff. All right, y'all, let's get to work. We're building something fresh here. Respect, hospitality, and good vibes only. As Karen trudged toward the kitchen, avoiding the amused stares of her coworkers, she realized something. She had spent her whole career looking down on others, and now, from the bottom, she was finally seeing what it felt like. The dishwashing station was a far cry from the bustling front-of-house energy Karen was used to. Gone were the crisp white tablecloths, the elegant ambiance, and the satisfying clink of fine china under dim candlelight. Instead, she was surrounded by the endless clang of dirty plates, the oppressive steam rising from the industrial sink, and the overwhelming scent of soap and leftover food scraps. Her hands, once manicured and delicate, were now pruny and raw from constant exposure to hot water and grease. Every time she reached into the murky sink, her stomach turned. Karen, we need those plates cleaned faster, the head chef barked from across the kitchen. The dinner rush is about to hit. Yes, chef, she muttered through gritted teeth, scrubbing furiously. She wasn't used to this. She wasn't used to being unseen, unacknowledged. Waitressing had its difficulties, but at least customers tipped, and there was always the chance of a flattering compliment or a friendly conversation. Now, the only sounds she heard were the orders being shouted out front and the never-ending splashing of water. And then there was Lisa. Lisa had been promoted to waitress after Karen's demotion. She walked with a newfound confidence, taking orders with grace and speaking to customers with warmth. As she passed the kitchen window, she caught Karen's eye and smirked, not in malice, but in irony. Crazy how things work out, huh? Lisa said one afternoon, balancing a tray of appetizers. Karen scoffed. Don't rub it in. Lisa leaned in. I don't need to. You're living it. Then she walked off to serve a table filled with VIP guests, the kind Karen used to cater to with pride. Karen sighed, pausing for a moment to glance toward the restaurant floor. She watched as the customers laughed, clinked glasses, and enjoyed meals she no longer had the privilege of presenting. She had taken it all for granted. One evening, Snoop strolled into the kitchen, casually observing the staff at work. The energy in the room shifted as people straightened their postures, trying to look their best in front of the new boss. He made his way to the dishwashing station and leaned against the counter, watching Karen struggle with a particularly stubborn stain on a plate. So, how's life back here? He asked, his deep voice carrying amusement. Karen exhaled sharply, still scrubbing. It's hard work. Snoop nodded. Yeah, dishwashing ain't glamorous, huh? She shook her head, setting the plate aside. No, it's not. He tilted his head. Funny, I don't remember you caring much about hard work when you were up front. Karen winced, but she didn't argue. She couldn't. Snoop watched her for a moment, then crossed his arms. Maybe now you understand. Every role in this place matters. Ain't nobody better than anybody else. From the top down, we all work together. She swallowed her pride, looking down at her soap-covered hands. I get it now. He studied her, as if deciding whether or not she was being sincere. Then finally he smirked. Good, maybe in time you'll earn your way back. Karen blinked, unsure if she had heard him right. You mean I might get another chance? Maybe, Snoop said, but only if you really change. With that, he patted the counter and walked away, leaving Karen standing there, hands dripping, heart pounding. Could she really prove she was different? Only time would tell. Weeks passed, and something unexpected happened. Karen changed. She no longer rolled her eyes when asked to do extra work. She no longer looked down on the kitchen staff, and she certainly no longer judged people by their appearances. She began to appreciate the effort required to keep the restaurant running, and she even found herself bonding with the very coworkers she had once dismissed. Late one night, after a particularly grueling shift, Karen sat on an overturned bucket in the kitchen, rubbing her sore arms. Lisa walked in, leaning against the doorframe. Look at you, Lisa teased, actually surviving back here. Karen chuckled weakly. Yeah, laugh it up. Lisa studied her for a moment before softening. You know, you're different now. Karen glanced up. I had to be. Lisa nodded. Well, I respect that. That night, as Karen finished up, she spotted Snoop near the entrance, his signature laid-back posture evident even from afar. He was about to leave for the night, but something made her step forward. She hesitated, then called out, Mr. Dogg. Snoop turned, raising an eyebrow. What's up? Karen took a deep breath. I wanted to say thank you. Snoop's expression was unreadable. For what? For not just firing me, for teaching me something instead. A slow smile spread across his face. That's what real bosses do. Karen let the words sink in, realizing just how much weight they carried. Snoop nodded toward the kitchen. You gonna keep grinding? Karen straightened her posture. Yeah, I am. He studied her one last time, then gave an approving nod before walking out into the night. As the door shut behind him, Karen stood there, realizing that the best lessons in life didn't come easy, but they did stick, and she would never make the same mistake again. Thank you for joining us on this journey of growth, humility, and redemption. Karen's story is a reminder that sometimes life humbles us in ways we never expect, but it's what we do with that lesson that truly defines us. Have you ever had a moment that changed your perspective? We'd love to hear your thoughts, so don't forget to comment below and let us know where you're listening from. And if this story resonated with you, make sure to hit that subscribe button and tap the bell so you never miss another inspiring tale. We'll be back soon with more stories that challenge, uplift, and stay with you long after they're told. Until next time, stay hopeful, stay kind, and always be open to growth.